Hello, my name is Martin Hausner. I'm the founder of Sattva, and I'm the creator of the Forgiveness Course. And the Forgiveness Course is a full course which we normally do over a full weekend. We've created a full online course, interactive, full of exercises. But for some people who just want a basic overview, we've created a smaller course of 10 lessons of about a half hour each, and that's what we're doing in this workshop. So let's get going. Forgiveness is something that can transform your life. It can transform your relationships. It can transform your work. It can transform your heart. You can't change what's going on around you until you start changing what's going on within you. Now, a lot of us, we try to work on what's outside. But often we fail to realize that first we have to work on what's inside, because when you change inside, then things change outside. So this is the paradigm in which we enter the forgiveness process. We're working on ourselves, and the next slide will explain it in more detail. You have to change the invisible if you want to change the visible. So we have the example of roots. So when you have a plant, you have a tree, you don't water the fruits. You water the invisible, what you can't see, because that affects what you can see. And a lot of times when we have problems, we work on the problems. Let's say you have a relationship problem, or you have money problem, or you have health problems, so you start doing things to work on the problem. But actually the problem is different from what you think it is. The problems you're seeing are symptoms. They're not the real problem, they're symptoms of the internal problem. So if you're, for example, if your tree is withering away, you think, oh, we have to fix the fruits. So you start watering the fruits. The dried fruits is a symptom of the dried roots. So life is like that. So what we're doing in this workshop is we're working on something internal to make certain internal changes, and you will see how it affects relationships in positive ways. It affects your own enthusiasm for everything in positive ways when you work on what's inside. You might say, well, I'm not motivated, I'm not this, I'm not that. It's not that you just need somebody to come and go, hey, hey, hip, boom, ba, let's get motivated. It doesn't work. You don't have to change what's inside, and that becomes a permanent, you could say, fix for what's going on outside. Forgiveness is a choice. Now, this is really important to understand, because I know, at least for myself, and I think many of us, when we're hurt, it's kind of a gut instinctive reaction. And in that moment when you're hurt and you're feeling resentful, it's very difficult to think that forgiveness is a choice. It's just how I feel. I know for myself, I had a forgiveness issue, and I thought that resentment was going to go on my whole life. I just thought that's the way it's going to be, because I was really, really hurt, and I was really angry. And when I first came to understand that forgiveness is a choice, my immediate reaction was resistance. I said, no, it can't be a choice. It's just what's come upon me. It felt like it was forced upon me. Just, I'm angry, I'm mad. I have my reasons to be mad and angry, and that's how it is. If we realize that we can choose to forgive, no matter what happened, it's empowering, and it's true. It's a choice we make. Now, if we don't forgive, look at it this way. We're actually choosing to hold on to resentment. And I know that's a different way of thinking than you may be accustomed to. But think of resentment like a pot on the stove. And if resentment is alive, that means the water's boiling. That means we kept the flame under the pot of resentment. That's actually what's happening. We're keeping the flame alive under the pot of resentment. If you choose to turn off the flame, then you're choosing to let the resentment go. You could actually do that. And that's what this course is about. It's about empowering you to, number one, realize that you can choose to forgive, and number two, empowering you how to do it, how to see things in such a way that you can let it go, and how to soften your heart, how to awaken compassion for the person who hurt you, and for yourself, so you can just let the past be the past. You could actually do that, and when you realize that, that's when everything changes. That's when you become empowered to let it go. You could actually, realistically, you could actually do it right now. I've written articles on forgiveness, and some people read the article and they just forgave. Their issues weren't that deep, or it resonated with them in such a way that they just forgave. And I've put people through forgiveness processes that we've gone on 15 hours. And it was only like in the last hour that finally they forgave. Difficult to make the choice, but they did it. They could have done it in a minute. At least, it's not. I can't say we can do it, but I don't want to say we can't do it. The point is we can make that choice. Okay. You're always responsible for how you act, no matter how you feel. And this is important. Okay, so somebody hurt me. I'm hurt. But I have to take responsibility for how I act. Okay, I feel hurt. How do I respond? Okay, in this case, we're talking about responding with resentment. And then I act in certain ways. I speak ill of the person. I tell other people about the person. I, in some way, am handicapped by my own resentment. I don't have to be, because I can be responsible for how I respond, even though I'm hurt. I don't have to act it out in any particular way. This is very empowering, because normally when we're hurt, we act it out in a certain way, because it's a natural consequence. I feel this way, therefore I act this way. But you can feel this way, and you don't have to act that way. Isn't that interesting? You can feel hurt, but you can still be kind. You can feel hurt, and you can still be compassionate. You can feel hurt and still be understanding. That's the power of forgiving. It's amazing, because usually we don't act that way. We act based on how we feel. I feel angry, therefore I act angry. I feel upset, therefore I act in upset ways. I feel in a good mood, I act in a good mood. I feel in a bad mood, I act in a bad mood. We don't have to do that. Isn't that amazing? Something happens and you feel a certain way, and sometimes you can't control that, but you can control what you do with that feeling. And when you understand that, it's empowering, because you're freed from this triggered response where you have to act in a certain way because you feel a certain way. You don't. You have that choice, you have that control. So you may have heard the word dharma. So dharma means a way of behaving which is in tune with your essence, or with your spiritual essence. It's a way of behaving that's consistent no matter what's going on around you. So you can act from a higher consciousness, or you can act from a lower consciousness. The higher dharma is the dharma that reflects our spiritual nature. So we are spiritual beings, divine beings, and we reflect divine qualities because we're part of the divine, and we have all the qualities that God has. We have them in small quantities, but we have them. That's our essence. But we have this physical form, and this physical form also it contains our lower nature, our instinctual nature, what we call like the lust, anger, greed in Sanskrit. There's what we would call in Catholicism mortal sins in Sanskrit: lust, anger, greed, madness, illusion, jealousy, envy, like that. And this is like the lower human nature. So we can act from a lower nature, or we can act from a higher nature. So obviously resentment is acting from a lower nature, and forgiveness is acting from a higher nature. The higher nature is natural. It doesn't always feel natural, but it's natural. It's just that it's covered, and when that higher nature is covered, then we act from the lower nature. And the lower nature is acting from a very low level of consciousness. So what's lower nature? Like anger, shame, guilt, greed. Lower levels of consciousness, higher consciousness, love, compassion, forgiveness, kindness, integrity. So that's natural. In a pure state, that's how we would act. But before we're in the pure state, still, again, we're on this theme of choice, that we do have the choice to connect with our higher nature, or allow ourselves to instinctively be drawn into conflict or lower consciousness activities because of our lower nature. So this choice is always there. We all experience this. Practically at every moment of life, you can act from a higher consciousness or a lower consciousness. And there's so many things around us that stimulate higher consciousness actions and lower consciousness actions. So as we progress in life, specifically progress spiritually, we become more attuned to the higher consciousness. So we respond to negative things with positive actions, positive words, positive thinking. But until we're on that level, we want to surround ourselves with positive environments and positive influences, because obviously we'll act in a positive way. But in any case, the point is to understand that whatever negative is coming to you, you don't have to respond with something negative. That's usually what most people do. You're not nice to me, I'm not nice to you. You're nice to me, I'm nice to you. Instead of being situated in your dharma as a spiritual being, of being compassionate and kind and so forth, and always acting that way no matter what comes to you. People throw dirt at you, you throw flowers at them. That's the way it's supposed to be. It'd be a nice world, wouldn't it? If most people threw flowers in exchange for dirt. Unfortunately, it's not the way the world is. But as we raise ourselves spiritually, that's the way it will be. Every great spiritual person acted that way. They were tormented, criticized, tortured, killed. What was their response? Compassion, kindness, forgiveness. The Bhagavad Gita is an ancient book of wisdom from India, and it explains all these things. It explains that we're not the physical body, and as I said, as the soul, we have a spiritual nature. All good qualities are there. And the Bhagavad Gita teaches there's karma for how we act. So the choices we make will result in reactions. And so we're all responsible for what we do. And Bhagavad Gita explains that whatever situation we are, wherever we're at in life, whatever situation we're in, it's created by our past actions. So we need to be responsible for our past actions. So here's the question, what are you offering the world? More compassion or more resentment, as we said before? It's interesting when you think of it in this way. In other words, I'm hurt, okay, you understand why I'm hurt, and I'm resentful. But the reality is, what am I offering the world now? I'm offering the world more resentment. And if everyone offers the world resentment, we have a lot of resentment in the world. And if everyone offers the world forgiveness, we have a lot of forgiveness in the world. So there's the mass consciousness, right? Whatever we're putting in our consciousness is going out into the world, and it's affecting the world. So every time I forgive, every time I act in some way which is more spiritual than material, it's doing a little something to uplift the consciousness of the world. Every time I do something resentful, lower consciousness activity, hateful, greedy, envy, it's adding a little less to the world. It's pulling the world down a little bit. Now, you may think, well, can I actually have that effect on the world? Well, multiply it by 7 billion people, and yes, it has a huge effect. Because we're all energy. We all affect one another. You affect all the people around you. There's electrical energy coming out of your mind and heart that can be picked up by meters 4, even 8 feet away from you. Quantum mechanics showed us that when an experiment is being done, the person doing the experiment, his consciousness or her consciousness is affecting the experiment. Our consciousness is affecting one another. So do you want to offer more resentment or more forgiveness? Obviously you want to offer more forgiveness. So don't just think it's an issue between you and this person, it's also an issue between you and the world. Because we all need to offer the world more forgiveness. And I know you agree. Okay, you all know about karma. What goes around comes around, right? Now it's interesting, when something negative happens to us, something bad happens to us, we tend to blame the person who did it, don't we? But when you understand karma, you understand it differently. You understand that the person who did it is a messenger of something that I deserve. He is a messenger of my karma. Just like if the postman brings you bills, do you blame the postman for your bills? No. I mean, maybe you do, but you shouldn't. So the postman brings you bills. Why is he bringing you bills? Because you purchase things that you have to pay for. So he's the messenger of your karma, of what you created. People are messengers of our karma. When you understand that, you look at forgiveness and resentment in a different way, because you see that everything is happening according to what I've done. Now, those of you who understand reincarnation will understand that karma works from past lives. So things come into us in this life that we created in past lives. But even if you don't believe that, you can see, you can understand that everything is a cause and effect. So where you're at today is a result of many causes, actions which you performed, or ways you reacted to situations. So it's interesting to look at the issue you're dealing with as something that you may have had something to do with. So just try to think, is there anything that I could have possibly done that has created this reaction? Anything. Just think about it. And if you just can't come up with anything, then you could think, if you believe in past lives, is it possible that I may have treated someone in a similar way in my past life, and now I'm being treated this way in this life? It is possible. Anyway, there's an interconnection. And it's nice to see the person who has hurt you as simply a messenger of your karma, that when you go higher, and we'll talk about this later, you'll start to see this person as a teacher who's bringing a lesson. That's even a higher way of understanding. Okay, now, be willing to let it go. A lot of people want to forgive, but actually they don't want to forgive, in the sense that they're not really willing to let it go. And why wouldn't they be willing to let it go? There may be many reasons. I know some people don't want to let it go because they think the person's going to commit the same act again. I would be empowering them to continue to do it. Some people think this person doesn't deserve it. Some people don't even know why they can't let go. They'll just say, I just can't let it go. Some people have beliefs surrounding forgiveness that don't make it possible to let it go. They just have a belief that you shouldn't forgive a person who's done A, B, or C. But if you want to forgive, you have to enter the forgiveness process with a willingness to let it go. Because if you don't have that willingness, there's nothing that can help you. I can't help you. You could read 100 books. They're not going to help you. You have to be able to say, okay, I'm willing and open to do what I have to do to make the adjustments in my thinking, in my seeing this situation, in order that I can let it go, and I can let it go without regret, without holding on to it, without the need to punish the person to get back at them, to see justice met out for them. I just can let it go because I'm willing to let it go. Well, that's, of course, true for so many things in life. We have to be willing to detach, to let it go. It's a kind of what I call an emotional detachment. And in spiritual practice, we talk a lot about detachment from material things. This is a different kind of detachment. It's an emotional detachment, and where you're detaching from feelings, you're detaching from thoughts, which are creating problems for you. And sometimes it's more difficult to detach on an emotional level than it is to detach on a physical level. Like, I may be attached to getting back at you, and I can't give up that attachment. I can't let it go. I can't let those thoughts of anger, of hatred, or how I will get back at you, or how I will punish you with my tongue. I can't stop thinking of it. That's emotional level attachment. So we have to emotionally detach, to be willing to let it go. That's prerequisite. So you can see me like a doctor, and you're like the patient, and I say, are you willing to take the medicine? Are you willing to follow the diet, the exercise? And you say, yes, doctor, I'm willing to do all of these things. And I say, okay, now I can help you. So that's how we enter the forgiveness process. Everyone deserves your forgiveness. And not only does everyone deserve your forgiveness, you deserve it also. Now, we might look at a person and say, no, they don't deserve my forgiveness. But from a spiritual perspective, everyone deserves to be forgiven because it's the right thing to do. In fact, something amazing, I study and I teach the ancient teachings of India. Now, there are many law books called the Vedas, but within the Vedas, there are specific books. And they describe what are considered human, for lack of a better word, considered what are the activities of human beings, traditionally. And one of the activities of human beings are to forgive. distinguishing, if you want to call it, distinguishing what is actual human life. You may have a human body. This is the way the texts teach. You may have a human body, but your consciousness may not be fully human or fully developed, or your heart may not be fully human and developed. You say, to be fully human would be to be forgiving. So from that perspective, as human beings, as spiritual beings, everyone deserves our forgiveness, even if they don't deserve it. Because forgiveness is not a question of people earning the right to be forgiven. It's a gift which we give to undeserving people, because in our consciousness, everyone deserves to be forgiven. Even if we think they don't deserve to be forgiven, they deserve to be forgiven. And as we'll discuss later, you deserve to forgive everybody because forgiveness helps you. So a lot of times when people say, I don't think they deserve to be forgiven, I say, you deserve to forgive them for your own benefit. And that's another topic we'll talk about in other lessons. Forgiveness doesn't mean you're condoning a wrong action. You are not empowering your abuser. You can set boundaries. Hate the sin, not the sinner. This is very important. As we said before, some people don't want to forgive because they feel, well, if I forgive, I'm empowering him. I'm condoning him. I'm making a wrong a right. And actually, you're not. Although I know sometimes it seems like it, but you're not doing that. Because you can create boundaries with the person. Just like, let's say, you hurt me. I can say, you hurt me, but I forgive you. But I don't want to have an intimate relationship with you because I'm afraid you'll hurt me again. And it's not good for me. It's not healthy for me. So I need to stay at a distance. Easier to understand in a relationship where there's physical violence, or a relationship where there was business dealings, where somebody had lost a lot of money, somebody was cheated. Now, obviously, after you forgive them, you don't want to work with them anymore because you don't trust them. Or if there's been physical violence, obviously you don't want to work. You don't want to be close to that person because you fear that you'll be injured again. So you can forgive them, but you create boundaries. So it doesn't mean we're condoning by forgiving. What it means is, whatever bad feelings I have towards my abuser, I'm letting them go because I don't want to live with those feelings because I know it's not right, it's not good for me, it's not good for anybody. But at the same time, I need to create boundaries because boundaries are important. So I can do both. And a lot of you listening to this are probably thinking, but I thought forgiveness is a relationship tool, so therefore if I forgive, I'm forgiving in order to establish a relationship. No. First, you're forgiving because it's the right thing to do. You're forgiving because it will help you, it will help the other person, it will help the world. But whether or not you want to have a relationship with an individual, that's your choice. It may not be healthy for you to do so. Now, we often say, if you don't know how to forgive, if you're not willing to forgive, you shouldn't get married, you shouldn't have intimate relationships because you need that skill. Any intimate relationship you're going to have, whether it's marriage or in business or friends, organizations, you need to be able to forgive in order to have good relationships because it's toxic if you hold on to resentment. That's a fact. So we're talking about here relationships that you want to have, relationships that you want to cultivate. Forgiveness is essential. But a relationship that you don't want to have, don't want to be close with, still you forgive, you just don't want to create the boundaries, you don't want to cultivate the relationship. So that, I hope that's clear now. Yes, it is a relationship tool for a relationship that you want. Or it can neutralize a bad relationship, but it doesn't mean that you want to continue a relationship. So in that sense, it's also a relationship tool because it rid the negativity in that relationship. It's just that you decided you don't want to continue the relationship. So that's also another way of looking at it. So now, this is the end of the first lesson, and we have a contract for you, and I'd like you to put your name on this contract and say, I am open, I, so-and-so, am open to forgive and am willing to take responsibility for how I feel. This is my first and most important step in moving towards living a life of forgiveness. So this is the message of this, the main message of this first lesson is to take responsibility for how you feel. Forgiveness means to take responsibility for how you feel. I'm hurt, but I will take responsibility not to react negatively not to react with resentment. Now, it may be too late, you've already reacted with resentment, but from this point on, I'm asking you, before you go to the next lesson, to take responsibility, be willing to take responsibility for how you feel, and then we can progress to the next lesson. So, sign that contract for yourself, and then after you sign it, we'll go to the next lesson.